music for the podcast. We don't actually have any theme music, so someone will probably make one up for us. I don't want to name any. Rachel, I hope it's Rachel that does that for the podcast.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Michael and Benjamin's podcast.
We're in the tiny room.
Back in the tiny room, as usual, I am Michael, or Mick, and I'm here with my not unattractive co-host Benjamin, or Ben.
That's me.
So, Ben, what are we doing? What are we talking about in the tiny room?
So, have you heard the news?
What's the news?
Well, we've touched on it before, Michael. It's not actually new news. My brain's not working.
You've gone all cross-eyed. What's wrong?
My brain's not working.
I genuinely
have no
don't.
idea why. Westworld Season 2 is coming out.
Oh, hold on, let me do a surprised. Oh. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, we both knew that because we touched on it already. Mm-hmm. And we said that they butchered the teaser trailer for it, which they actually did. But
yes,
it got me thinking, Michael.
What did it get you thinking?
Because I love an old think.
You love a think.
Love an old think.
What did it
just
get you
me,
thinking?
Some lotion and some tissues.
Oh, God.
Is
that?
Just writing down notes on tissues and using the lotion to make sure my hands don't get too chapped holding the pen. Chapped pen.
That's where we're going with this episode.
What I actually started thinking about was Westerns.
Westerns?
Because I'm sure you know this about me, but I'm a huge Western fan.
No, you're not.
I actually am.
You're not.
I'm a closeted Western fan.
I've never seen you with a Stetson.
No, I've never worn a Stetson.
I've never seen you with a stirrup.
I do have several cattle and steers out in my back garden, though.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do. You've been.
I have been. There are no animals in your garden.
There are. There's several. They hide behind the chrysanthemums.
I
was scratching in my brain there. I was like, what is the most obscure flower I could possibly have in my back garden?
A sedum.
A sedum. Yeah. No, that's where I keep the pigs. They're behind the sedums.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Cows for chrysanthemums. Pigs for sedums.
Swine
for Sweden. Oh, God damn it. Oh, he's just better than me.
Just sharp.
So, it got me thinking about Westerns. And I don't know if you've noticed, Michael, there's a fucking truck ton of Westerns out at the moment. There's a lot of Western homages.
They're back.
Well, they're back big time. And, well, I've developed a theory, Michael, but I'd like to hear why you think that might be first.
Why are Westerns back?
How do you feel about Westerns first?
Normal Westerns or weird Westerns?
I think they're all weird Westerns now, aren't they? We don't really do normal Westerns anymore.
Well, we had True Grit.
That was the Coen Brothers, though. I mean, I'm not sure of that. Yeah, but it was testing the waters for this whole thing.
We had Magnificent Seven.
We did.
It was pretty straightforward. A lot of genre actors in it.
A lot of genre actors in that one.
So
yeah. That was a real test of the waters. I think that was Hollywood's litmus test for this one. It was like, okay, we got Chris Pratt. We've got Denzel.
We've got
Ethan Hawke, who looks suspiciously like someone we know.
He does.
And they were like, that's an all-star cast. Let's push that boat out and see how far it gets.
Let's do a Western, you varmints.
Didn't get far.
No, did it?
In its defense. Did not
How
do
did
that
it do?
well. Didn't do that well.
What were its numbers?
I don't know what the numbers were. Didn't get the stats, but I remember it distinctly. I think like all blockbusters starring Chris Pratt and things like that, like it did well money-wise. Like it made its money back.
Did it?
But I don't think it was...
to say that?
I'm not confident to say it, so we won't be having retractions. But I don't think it was very good.
No,
I remember watching it and being like, because I love The Magnificent Seven.
It was just a film.
It was just a film. That's exactly what it was. But weird Westerns are all the rage.
Hold on. Was No Country for Old Men a Western?
It's definitely Western, like it's derived from Westerns.
Western themed, if not Western setting.
Western noir. We could chalk that up to.
And what about that other one? There Will Be Blood? Was that a Western?
Blood? That's not a... Well, it is, but it's not a traditional cowboy Western. It's a frontier Western.
It's a gritty...
it's a gritty thing. We also had Slow West. I don't know if you saw Slow West.
Never heard of it.
Michael Fassbender, Scottish director. Very nice film about a young man from Scotland who follows his deported love of his life over to the West.
Go on.
Over to the West.
Go on, and Fassbender.
There he meets no, it's not him. He's a cowboy in the West. But this is a young Scottish nobleman who follows his
cowboy, isn't he?
Who follows his... Vashti's a cowboy.
Those fucking cowboy actors.
Those cowboy actors. None as fine as Vashti. And he follows him over. It's a great film. I thoroughly recommend it. Good Western. Very, very low key, but very
What's
good.
it called?
Slow West.
I might watch that.
Yeah,
I might
Slow West. I recommend
my eyes over that.
It's very, very artsy but very good.
So come here then. What's your theory?
So I think the reason, well, first of all, to give more examples of modern westerns, I think they're not directly westerns a lot of the time. What they are often homages to, or homages, whichever one you prefer.
Homage.
Homage. They're homages to westerns, to the original westerns, Yul Brynner, John Wayne, all that kind of thing. And I think really what they are now, so we have things like Preacher now.
Yeah.
Which is heavily...
Preacher TV show or Preacher comic book?
Well, we can look at Preacher comic book in the 90s.
1993?
1993. Very early 90s pulp fiction style comic book writing. Not Pulp Fiction the movie, Pulp Fiction the genre. Ultra violent.
Garth.
Go on, Garth.
Famously not from Bray.
Famously not from Bray. In fact, well renowned. Is renowned? You don't need well before renowned. But world renowned, non-Brayite, Garth Ennis. There's an Irish fella in there with conflicting identity issues. Cassidy, wonderful man. But I think it's more interesting that it's been made now and that it's quite successful now.
Oh.
I think that's even more telling.
I suppose if you think about it, like 1993 to 2016 is a long 23 years. 23
years in the making.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it's a long stint, and it's been remade now. Like, I have a working theory on this. Westworld is back. Very Western, very popular. We had Deadwood. I guess that would have been...
That was a Western.
An early adopter of the new Western.
What
though that was very traditional.
What did Lovejoy say in that? Motherfucker.
Yeah.
Did he call everyone motherfuckers?
Motherfucker.
You motherfucker.
But he said it in a really weird way. And then we also have Hand of God, the Ron Perlman preacher who's touched by God thing. It's on Amazon. It's quite popular on Amazon Prime.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, that's out as well.
Does Ron Perlman have a magic hand again?
I think he's given some kind of godlike judging power.
On his hand?
In his hand, yeah.
So he's the right hand of God?
I think so. I think that was the
What was he last time? The left hand of the apocalypse?
Yeah, so he's just swapping hands.
He's going around...
That's been remade. Hellboy's been remade.
Oh, no.
They've cast Ian McShane as...
Hellboy?
No, I wish that would be...
Motherfucker.
That would be awesome. I would love that. No, he's going to be... the Doctor.
Oh, the Doctor. Doctor something or other.
I can't remember his name.
No, neither can I. There's a Hellboy here.
There's a Hellboy here somewhere.
Doctor...
but then also, like, in much looser basis, you have things like American Gods. Which is a Western of sorts.
It's
across the plains of America. It's the big, broad, open...
So apparently I learned something studying for this podcast.
Good.
Apparently a Western means west of the Mississippi. That's the kind of limit for the Western.
I did not know that.
Yeah, that was news to me.
That's news to me as well. Didn't know that at all. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's quite useful. I like how our roles are reversed for this.
Yeah, I'm teaching you stuff.
That's good, you're teaching me stuff.
Do you think that this is a cycle? Because Western comics were very popular.
Yeah, well, okay, Westerns are generally a cycle, but I think in a much broader sense, going into tropes and themes and shit, because I'm into that kind of thing.
Leitmotifs.
I think, without getting too political or anything like that, I think America's at a bit of a junction.
A crossroads.
A crossroads, if you will, to stick with our Western theme.
A fork in the road.
And I think what it is I think America's trying to make sense of what it is. And I think Westerns in their purest form or in their best form are kind of the myth of what America should be. You understand? Like, it's good people triumphing over the bad. It's hard work and toil building something better. It's community. It's this, it's that. In traditional Westerns, it's very much the original Westerns. Now, I don't mean modern, like, gritty Westerns. I mean John Wayne rides into town, saves the whole place.
The Lone Ranger.
And it's a little bit better. Yeah, exactly. Hi-ho, Tonto, and away.
I'm going to stop you there.
Hi-ho, Silver.
Tonto's his Indian friend. He doesn't... I've made a grave error.
It's Hi-Ho Silver.
Yes,
away. I'm sorry. I really enjoyed that. It's such a strange image of Johnny Depp being written by Army.
That would have been great, wouldn't it? That would have made the modern reimagining
so
Much better.
Johnny Depp definitely would have gotten into trouble for appropriating horse culture, though.
Yeah, and he probably would have worn a funny headpiece as a horse.
Bizarre headpiece. Oh yeah, there was the Lone Ranger
We forgot
remake
about the
as
Lone
well.
Ranger.
We forgot, well, for good reason.
That kind of sold us that it was going to be a weird Western, but then it wasn't.
It wasn't at all.
No,
it was very black and white.
Mm-hmm.
Not just Johnny Depp, who wears black and white makeup throughout the movie. No, but a lot of these things are driven by discovery. For example, Preacher is all about finding God.
Right, but your theory here about America finding itself, is that not kind of counteracted by the fact that Preacher is written by an Irishman?
Okay, well, I can have a counter argument to that.
Ooh.
I guess. Well, no, I think Irish no, not in a bad sense. I think Irish people generally have a large myth of America in their head, probably more so than Americans themselves. Like, America's that big old place across the pond there.
That America.
Like that place that we can go and make something of ourselves.
She's gone off to that America.
She's gone off. She's going to have a fine life over there. She'll find some lovely young fella.
Like
settle down.
What's her name?
Like
from the show we watched.
Fucking
Ellie,
yeah. Essie McGowan. Essie McGowan. Essie McGowan.
Ooh, that America.
Yeah. But, and I think for people like Gareth Ennis, I think that bridge was kind of gapped coming towards the 90s. Like, that myth of America, that big grand ideal started to close because a lot more people went to America, and the America that we believed in as a tiny little island wasn't there. So I think it was
turns out it was full of
because
racists.
he went over and started to write for the big two, Marvel and DC, and Vertigo and things like that. He moved from 2000 AD, so this would have been his experience in America, and everything he believed about America isn't there. You know what I mean? And let's not forget that was heavily inspired by Bill Hicks, who was a massive political satirist at the time, and it was a time when police brutality was at a very, very prevalent in the media. It was a time when was that post Bill Clinton?
No,
and
that
Monica
was around
Lewinsky.
No, that was later.
Lewinsky was later.
Later, yeah. Lewinsky was 2000s, wasn't it? Or
it was 99. It was up around. It was up around there. But this was Iraq War round 1, wasn't it as well?
So kind of like now.
Yeah. So very similar to now, which is maybe why this is all back. Now it is cyclical, but I think it's triggered by something. You understand? So that's what I think about Preacher. That's why I think it's so prevalent now. Westworld, a little less, but I think the message of Westworld is quite clear in that a lot of people go to Westworld for a purer form of life. It's
you mean in the show?
It's simpler in the show. Sorry,
that's not why
people watch it. People watch it because it's HBO and there's tits and there's death and tits and death,
and sometimes tits and death in one scene.
It's all together.
Yeah.
Someone beats someone to death with their tits. Sorry, I don't know.
HBO,
tits and death.
Yeah.
If you want to send me commission for your new marketing campaign, it's Ben Colopy at 11. No, I'm not giving you my address. Yeah, and I think that's, again, like, the message of that is they go back to that town because their modern life is very complicated and it's much purer, and I think in many ways that mirrors what Westerns actually do now. But that's a very highfalutin term.
That's very highfalutin.
It's very highfalutin. It's very grand. I've just been thinking about it a lot.
That's highfalutin, which is good, because let's talk about some shit Westerns then.
Yeah, because that's well, you are my foil. Michael Foyle.
Well, look at Jonah Hex. Let's look at Jonah Hex. Did you see Jonah Hex? Did you read Jonah Hex?
I've read Jonah Hex several times, but I saw that movie. Josh Brolin, pre Thanos Cable.
Yeah. He's just taking every bite from the apple, isn't he? He's
just working. I love as well that he's unabashedly like, no, I'm Cable too.
Yeah.
And it's just like, people are outraged. I love it. People are like, how can he play two? And it's like, they're two different franchises. He doesn't give a fuck.
He's not leaving any apple for anyone else.
I think he's one of the few people as well who's just been like, no, I don't have to choose one.
Yeah.
No, I don't care.
Yeah.
And he really doesn't. I think he's just kind of like, yep, I'm going to make the money.
But Jonah Hex,
was in the Goonies.
He was in the Goonies. And Jonah Hex. Which is terrible. With Megan Fox.
Michael Fassbender was in it as well.
Yeah, and Megan Fox. And just real bad.
Is it Megan Fox or Olivia Wilde?
It's Megan Fox. Olivia Wilde is in Cowboys and Aliens.
Oh, God.
Which is also bad. Irish woman in space, Olivia Wilde.
Olivia Wilde. She's half Irish, isn't she?
I think she's Irish.
She went to the Gaiety School of Acting. Her parents are Irish. I think she's related to Oscar Wilde in some way. That's a possible retraction.
No, I think you're right.
But I think she is actually descended of Wildean descent.
Or she took her stage name because she liked Oscar Wilde. Does that ring any bells? I think it might be that.
It could be either.
Look.
Anyway, she studied at the Gaiety School of Acting here in Dublin.
Yeah, although not a great ad for the Gaiety School of Acting, Cowboys and Aliens.
Because it's shite.
So why don't Cowboys and Aliens, Jonah Hex, Wild Wild West, Jim West, Desperado, Rough Rider, No I Don't Want Nada, None of This, Six Gun in This, Brother Running This, Buffalo Soldier, Look, it's like I told you, any damsel that's in distress, be out of that dress when she meets Jim West, Roughneck. I forget the rest.
Is that the West, the Wild Wild West?
Wiki Wild Wild West.
Well, I think. Okay, so there's a fine gradient, and we do love scales here at the Michael Benjamin's podcast. So I think there's a true line of westerns.
We're going straight to the Wild Wild West. We're going straight to the Wild Wild West.
And as usual, we need a very mediocre movie to use as our scale. Right. And I think actually a perfect one was the one we mentioned earlier, which is the Magnificent Seven remake with Denzel. So Denzel's Magnificent Seven is what we're going to call it. Or the Washington Seven.
Who was it? Was Denzel the lead of that?
He was. He's Yul Brynner's character.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay. There was a lot of Chris Pratt in the marketing.
A lot of Chris. Well, he is Hot Topic number one. He is Star-Lord and Jurassic Park and Parks and Recreation. He does a lot of park theme stuff.
Now that you mention it. Magnificent Park.
So I'm going to use that as our mediocre meter.
Okay.
And I think they fall on two sides. What the Magnificent Seven remake is a very true to form Western. Mm-hmm. But there's no pizzazz. So what it is the old format of Western movies. Bunch of guys, don't get on, all kind of loners, Rough Riders, but old school masculine skills.
Rough Riders, Desperados.
Yeah, Desperados.
No, you don't want nada. None of this. Six Gun in This.
And I think what happens is...
Brother Running This.
It's too traditional. So it flops in today's market. Where I think we do well with stuff like that is where you have that true line classic Western, but you tweak it enough with interesting things. For example, they're all robots, but they're very Western at the same time. It never really stretches far.
Or a giant mechanical spider.
You see, then on the other side we have pure anachronism, where we have things that just don't belong in that genre. We have very little attention to traditional Western tropes, and we're just like, we're going to make everything look like it was in the West, but we're also going to throw in a bunch of steampunk shite. And hope that works.
Tell us what you think about steampunk then.
No, I love giant mechanical spiders. Do you know that's because the producer, had a giant mechanical spider fetish? He tried to put it in Superman 2 with Nicolas Cage. He's got a pure hard-on for mechanical spiders.
He's a weird guy, that guy. John Peters, John Phillips?
I don't know, but we'll stick it in the comment. We'll stick it in the description. And I think what happens there is they take those movies and they twist them out of proportion. They fail to pay attention to classic tropes, and it takes them too far, and then they flop for being ridiculously silly.
Did Wild Wild West flop? It did, didn't it?
I think it again recouped its.
It might not have
money.
Because didn't Will Smith famously turn down The Matrix to do that?
Oh, he did.
Although that was probably because The Matrix wouldn't let him do a rap.
He does like to theme his own movies.
Because we're stuck in computer world. How are we going to get out from computer
and then
world?
We'd have
My
like
name is John Anderson and I'm going to be in the computer world. Then I know that the Matrix is all that coming around.
Because then he'd have his one moment where he talks to him. He's like, because I'm going to get out of this computer. And then he puts some shades on or something like that. And that'd be... and then he'd walk away being like, and you can bet on that. And he'd have some stroll off. Yeah,
it's for the best.
I now really want to hear Will Smith's Matrix song.
Yeah, he would do an amazing Matrix song.
Look, Will, if you're not doing much, if you've had enough of Jaden in the house and you want to take a break, pop down to the studio.
And what's her name? What's his daughter's name?
Oh, Willow
West.
Which is a very, 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 very narcissistic way to name your daughter.
Willow.
Well, Jaden is named after Jada. Or
Yeah.
Jada?
Oh,
Pinkett
it
Smith.
is.
And you know what the worst part about the Smith family? And
That's like
this is a complete tangent.
That's like if you had a child and you called her Benjina.
Oh, God.
That's ridiculous.
I make a solemn vow on the podcast right now that should I ever have a daughter, she will not inherit the name Benjina.
Benjina Colopy. That would be amazing.
That's exactly what it is. Do you know what the tragedy of the Smith family is? He actually has another son that gets no look in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who's that now?
He had a son from a previous marriage who lived with him and Jada.
Jada
I don't know.
Pinkett
Jada's Pinkett Smith. Jada's Pinkett. I don't know.
Jada Spinkett Pit.
It just sounds awful.
Oh no, Benjina.
Is your toilet clogged? Sminkett Pit has you covered. Yeah, so he lives with him and he gets no look in. There's a forgotten Smith child.
Oh, that's terrible.
And he wasn't named after either of his parents.
That's awful.
There was no gender swap.
Can he do a
child
rap?
naming. No, he can't.
He can't even do
He
a
doesn't
rap.
even get in photographs at premieres. He's there in the corner. So, anyway, as I was saying, we've got the mediocre meter. And I think they find it really hard to correctly adopt Western stories and give them enough twist to make them better. But luckily, comics don't have that problem, in my opinion.
That's your opinion.
It is my opinion,
Literally.
and mine alone. And I actually wanted to take a look at some of the comic book adaptations of Westerns because it's still quite popular there. For example, Six Gun Gorilla.
Never heard of it.
East of West.
Never heard of it.
By Jonathan Hickman.
I have heard of it. But you know how I feel about Hickman.
Yeah, I know. It's too grand. He's too big. He thinks too big. Yeah. We've got that other one where it's like a Western on other planets.
Saga.
Saga is a Western of a sort. Yeah, that's not the one that I meant.
Elements about it.
There are some severe Western elements of it. And then I can't remember what the other one is. Outplanet or
Outlander.
It could be Outlander. Is that what it is?
I don't know. I've just made that up.
Anyway, the one that I really, really like from Image Comics is Pretty Deadly. And anyone who's read Pretty Deadly either loves it or hates it. It's quite polarizing as a thing.
Is it?
I think majority of people love it, but
Right.
I don't think there's a middle ground. I don't think you can be like,
I like it.
Kelly Sue DeConnick is amazing. She kind of does really interesting things with comics in general.
Do you think she's read Preacher?
I don't.
She has definitely read
I think
Preacher.
she's read The Saint of Killers. I think she's definitely heavily influenced by that big, grand mythology element of
sure.
Westerns. But that's quite part of what, like, Garth Ennis was quite influenced by all of that as well. Like his obsession with the Alamo, which is something we don't know about. Like, we don't learn about the Alamo.
What's an Alamo?
It-
No, I know what it is.
Yeah,
There's
sorry.
a
It's the
torrent.
last stand of the Southern forces, or of the Confederacy in the American Civil War, was the Alamo. Remember the Alamo?
I thought it was the
No,
Mexicans.
that's the Mexicans. God damn it. It's so hard to keep up with. See, this is the thing. It's just so... But God, it really is men misremembering things.
Men misremembering things.
It's also leaning heavily towards Ben misremembering things.
Hold on, though. Do you think she has read Sandman?
Yes. Also.
For sure.
No, there are like serious 90s influences in that comic. But I also think she does her own original take on a lot of the stuff.
It's very 90s.
Like, Death could be directly parallel to Morpheus in his kind of miserable man in the high castle kind of, not the show, the trope of the lonely god.
He looks a lot like Khonshu as well.
He does look a lot like Khonshu, but I think she came first, so I think
Really?
Khonshu looks a lot like her version of Death.
Oh. Who stole who? Jeff Lemire.
Jeff Lemire, you saucy minx.
Possible stealer.
Possible thief. But it's an amazing story, and as you said, it's very similar to Sandman. I actually hadn't thought about that, but the second you said it, the second you said it just kind of went,
get out of here.
yeah, click.
When I read it perfectly legally in a comic book that I bought, I thought I had I thought I had accidentally bought Sandman.
It does that grand reality bleeds into myth
Yeah.
bleeds into reality,
Yeah.
game and classic kind of stuff.
Very
where,
similar framing devices as well.
yeah, where
having
gods walk the earth and...
but even having the rabbit and the bunny rabbit and the
as the
butterfly
storytellers.
telling the story.
Oh my god, it's just
It's very
super
Sandman.
Western Sandman.
It's if Sandman met Preacher.
That's exactly what it is. Oh my, wow.
Mm.
I don't love it any less, but wow.
No, it's still good.
I never thought of it that way.
It's if Sandman met Preacher. So hold on, I should explain this.
Yeah,
I have only read this because Ben told me, "Hey, Mick, we're talking about Wild Wild West." So first of all, I tried to learn the rap from Wild Wild West, and then I said, "No, wait a minute,
You
that's
did
probably
remarkably well, given the level of motivation.
No, I know more, but it's gone from my head. Roughneck. So you better go check the law. No, so you better check about the law.
You've got podcast nerves, pal.
Watch your step, or else you're gonna watch your step or flex. Get a hole in your side. Step on my side. Just keep balling, and that's Kanye. Doesn't matter.
That's Kanye.
So I read it. I read it because you said, "Hey, Mick, read this." And why am I telling this story?
I don't know.
So I read it, and I
story.
said it's like if Preacher was retold as by Sandman.
That's exactly what it is. That's a perfect
With a
analogy.
little bit of anime.
Yeah, the art style is heavily influenced.
I'm not even. I don't know if I mean art style. I think I
almost
mean
traditional
the
Japanese
character
art.
design.
Yeah, it's very like traditional. It's like, do you ever read the Dream Hunter standalone from the Sandman series?
What happens in that?
Sandman is in Japan, Morpheus is in Japan,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all about a woman being hunted by demons, and he helps her.
I think so.
He chooses to help her, but it's drawn in that very
Yes.
traditional Japanese calligraphy kind of style.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's quite unusual
Mm.
as a piece, and representative of Neil Gaiman's work in the early 2000s, where it was just everything was Sandman extensions. It's like, I know I killed that character, but he was around for a long time, so I'm going to tell those stories.
Yeah.
Because nobody liked Daniel. Nobody adopted Daniel as the new.
Daniel, shit.
Everyone was just like, why did you replace that?
People hate when you replace one concept. Oh, spoilers. Let's leave that alone.
Let's not go near that.
Yeah.
Okay.
do
So,
it?
moving on from there. It is a story based around some very, very simple characters. There is Fox. There is Ginny. Deathface Ginny is her name. There is Johnny Coyote. There is Big Alice. There is Sissy, who is the most important character. And there is Death.
Who's Sissy?
Sissy's the little girl.
Is that her name?
Her name is Sissy.
The Vulture Girl.
The Vulture Girl. So, what you need to know about this is, as I've mentioned Death about 7 times, what this 5 or 6 issue masterpiece is about.
Oh, it's a masterpiece.
It is to me. Is death, and the understanding that death is inevitable and that all things change.
Death is a sexy goth girl, though.
Not in this, because this is Image Comics and not DC Universe.
Boo.
So, sexy Death is very much not present here. Death is actually a rat-headed or bird-headed god.
I thought it was a bird.
It's a bird because it's got like the teeth. I got confused. It's a bird-skulled, conchu-esque reaper. And he's the king of Grim Reapers, is what he is. And it's a very sprawling tale about...
I don't think it's sprawling. I think it's quite compact.
But in its scope. Okay, fair enough, it is quite compact in the run, but it's quite... Well, it's not even. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
Sprawling sounds
it's
like
quite small. Yeah. It's quite...
It's a
tight 6.
It's a it's a strangely intimate tale.
It is.
For something which is...
But it's about the end of the world.
Yeah. But for something which is about the end of the world, it's strangely intimate.
It is very intimate. That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, I know.
You're very poetic when you want to be.
You know, I'm weird.
Steal my shtick.
I'm so disappointed that I can't remember the ending lines of the Wild Wild West rap. So now
you're very...
I've leaned back on...
pathos.
Yeah, I've leaned back on my inner Ben.
Oh, nice. That's for everyone. You know, that's not the first time I've heard that my sad place is you. That's not the first time, won't be the last. So it is all about basically death in this particular story runs in cycles, much like westerns. And to every, I think, is it every century?
I don't think they say.
They don't give a direct thing, but there are basically two main things in the balance of the universe. There's death and there's the ascendant.
Mm-hmm.
And the ascendant is a replacement for the king of death.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's how it works. However, one king of death is not accepting the cycle, and so nature is out of balance.
Because he's a real dickhead.
And things are starting to twist because he's a real putz. And things are out of balance. And it's all about how the world is slightly twisted as a result of his strange thing. But fundamentally, it's also a love story, which is the tact I will be taking in Pretty Deadly, the movie pitch.
Oh, it's a movie now.
Which I'm doing today. I was going to do a tight 8.
Stop
Perfect.
a
perfect tight 8 series adaptation. But there's, as you said, it's quite compact and intimate. I don't think it would suit a series in the way that many people think the comic book should be done now. I think this is better suited to a film.
It's a film. It's a movie.
And it's original enough to be quite an interesting film, but it'll never get made because it's too original.
No, it might. It's not that original. It's Sandman.
That's quite original. Anyway, to start with, because we love an old Dreamcast here at the Michael and
Every time you say
podcast.
Dreamcast, I think of the semi-failed 1990s Sega games console.
Semi-failed yet iconic.
Is it?
Isn't it?
It was kind of my last games console. It's when I lost touch with console games.
I gave up on games very young. I got PlayStation 1, didn't care for it.
What are we talking about?
Our lost youth. So, to start very, very simply, because Sissy is the most important character. Now, she's very, very young in the comic.
Very young.
Too young for me to cast, because I'm not that aware of child actors.
Yeah.
Which is, in some ways, very reassuring.
Yes, that's good.
So, I've cast a little bit older, and I have cast Zendaya as Sissy. Sissy is the Ascendant. Spoilers.
Major spoilers.
Sorry, major spoilers there, guys. Sorry,
major spoilers for this whole thing.
Yeah, because it's a pitch.
Yeah.
Sissy is the Ascendant, and she will replace Death. And as a result, the current King of Death despises her and is hunting for her. To do this, he dispatches a number of people to hunt her down.
Right.
But she's looked after by other people.
So hold on. Zendaya's quite old.
She's quite old. She's 22, I think.
So you get away with 16?
She does, because she looks quite young. She plays, for those of you who don't know who Zendaya is, she's... are we allowed to give spoilers for that film? It's very...
She's in it.
She's Mary Jane.
No, she's not. She's Michelle Jones.
But everyone calls her MJ. Sorry,
yeah, but that's not Mary
Jones.
Jane.
It's not Mary Jane, but I think it's going to be... I think that's what we're working on.
Everybody
Anyway, she's the new love interest after the Vulture's daughter got put away in the...
Oh no, that's an unnecessary spoiler.
Oh, okay, I'll take that out.
That's... Oh,
Sorry.
No, leave it in. Leave it in.
Let it out here. Where we
no, it's fine. I'll leave it in.
Leave it in.
Leave it
Fuck
in.
it.
Fuck it. We'll spoil everything.
We're
spoiling everything
we'll
now.
do it recorded.
Bruce Willis was a ghost.
So... I think we're safe on that one. So it's going to be Zendaya. She's here in a slideshow. It is a little risky, but I think you need someone who can actually act to pull this off, because it gets very confusing and loose for her.
And someone a bit sexy.
Yeah, you need to draw the younger people in.
Could we do... you know who I would choose for
Please tell
Sissy?
me.
It would be Christina Milian.
You do love Christina Milian.
Well, only physically.
Only physically. She's very old for the part.
It's kind of dangerously close to a fuck you there. I think she's younger than me. I will fist you, Benjamin.
Oh, that's our secret podcast. So moving on from there, she is looked after by Fox. Fox.
Movie's favourite dad.
And Fox is... Well, he plays a very important role. I'm not going to give away the spoilers for this one. Fox is basically her guardian in this particular story. He's very attached to her. He's very protective of her. He's blind. He's very grizzled and much older than she is. And I have chosen everyone's favourite action dad. Liam Neeson. To play him.
Why did you do a Stan Lee voice?
No, it wasn't quite Stan Lee. It was a touch of Stan Lee. So
he's going to look for her.
Fox has a very particular set of skills.
He does.
and if you hurt Sissy, he will find you, and he will kill you.
Yeah.
He's blind, but he can see things, but only things he's not meant. He can't see the things he's not meant to see.
Like Denzel Washington.
So he can only see the things he's meant to see. And he's kind of supernatural because he was blinded, but we can't get into that because those are major spoilers for the story. So I've chosen everyone's favourite dad.
Happy with that.
Action dad, Liam Neeson. I thought was a good choice.
Yeah, that's a good choice.
Moving on from there, Deathface Ginny is the daughter of Death and the Reaper of Vengeance. It's never directly mentioned that she's the Reaper of Vengeance in this, but the second volume gets much more into the mythology of the Reapers.
She's Ghost Rider.
She is similar to that. She's very similar to that. She's the Reaper of Vengeance and the most powerful of the Reapers. And she's quite hard to cast. I was looking for a kind of badass woman to do that, and I settled on. Now, I'm going to mispronounce this.
Yeah. I don't know if that's really... Is that Numi Rapace?
Rapace.
I don't know if
is
that's
it Rapace or Numi Rapace? Numi Rapace. I don't know. Anyway, it's Numi Rapace because I think she's quite striking, and I think Deathface Ginny is quite striking.
She was in my brother's favourite film, Prometheus.
She is in Prometheus.
It's my brother's favourite film.
Your brother's favourite film. Which we will definitely have to do a podcast on at some point.
We're going to get him.
She is actually hunting down Fox. She's not hunting... she's not hunting Sissy at all.
But do we know that?
You find that out quite early, who she's after. Now, it is very important to note that Deathface Ginny is actually the subject of a song. And the song that it tells is a very sad, kind of tragic love story about a man who loved his wife so much and coveted her so much that he locked her in a tower and made her miserable. So she killed herself. And of that, her daughter was born, and Deathface Ginny was born because the woman in the tower died and made a deal with death, or fell in love with death. I'm not sure.
Death just gave it to her.
Death basically was the only one who could reach her in the tower, and so they fell in love. Or he coveted her also. Very covetous woman. Covetable woman. Very covetable woman. And of that union was born Deathface Ginny, and she is the rider of, she's not an actual Ghost Rider. She is the Reaper of Vengeance.
She's the Ghost Rider.
And apparently, if you've been wronged, you say her name on the wind, and Deathface Ginny will appear. Beetlejuice, yeah, very like Beetlejuice. Or Bloody Mary,
or Candyman,
or many American tropes.
Yeah.
Who
else can you call by saying their name?
Ghostbusters.
Jim West. Jim West.
Oh,
Desperado, Rough Rider. Who are you going to call? Not the GBs. Who are you going to call?
Oh my god, I just realised that it's a pun. The title of the film is Wild Wild West, as in Wild Wild
Jim
Will
West.
Smith.
Wiki West. Jim West. Desperado. It's the first line of the song.
Oh no, I hate this.
Okay, anyway, that's a good cast.
Anyway, so she was my choice for that one. She is hunting Fox for reasons unknown. Moving on from there, another very important character is Big Alice, and Big Alice is another Reaper and Death's right hand woman. And the one I have chosen to play her is Claudia Black from Stargate.
Okay. You've made an error there. It should be Gwendolyn Christie.
Who's Gwendolyn Christie?
She's from Game of Thrones. She's about 6'6". She has blonde hair.
I've made a serious error there.
That's a terrible error.
Gwendolyn Christie would have been much better. She's eye candy though.
She's about 50. Not that there's anything wrong with that. If we have any older, attractive listeners.
Apparently ageism is part of the podcast now.
Yeah, also she's very short. She's
so
only about 5'3".
Perhaps we do need
Gwendolyn Christie.
Gwendolyn Christie.
It's Gwendolyn Christie.
So I did choose Claudia Black, but I think we've had a recast.
Claudia Black there.
We've had a recast. And Big Alice hates Ginny, first of all, because Ginny is Death's favourite, because it's his daughter. And she feels that she is more deserving of that title. And she is actually hunting Sissy on behalf of the King of Death.
So Big Alice is definitely the most anime-ish character in this.
Oh, she's ridiculous.
She looks like a Japanese person designed a Western character.
It works very well, though. I quite like this.
That's not a criticism.
It's not a criticism.
I like Big Alice.
Big Alice is great out characters. That's my cast for that one. Moving on from there, we have two very important characters that represent a huge part of American mythology.
Americania.
No, it's not Americana. This is Native American mythology.
Oh.
This is primal, grassroots mythology for America. There are two characters in Native American mythology. They are Coyote and Raven, and they are the trickster gods of Native American mythology.
Lokis.
They're the Lokis of Native American mythology. And these two characters feature quite heavily as a duo that are interchangeable. For some reason, they're Irish.
Are they?
Yeah, Molly and Johnny.
I didn't pick up on that.
And they're ginger, and they're both Irish. I don't know whether that's an immigrant thing. I don't know whether that's saying that all Irish people are sneaky.
Are they?
In which case, we're going to have to pick you up on that. That's an Irishman's frontier.
Where's my wallet?
Special. I lifted it about 10 minutes ago.
It was Benjamin.
Benjamin.
You just say Benjina. Don't say Benjina. That's
I'm not saying
dreadful.
that again. But Johnny is Johnny Coyote, and Raven, Molly is Molly Raven, and they can change from human to animal form, and they have quite a tense relationship at the start of this narrative. They are estranged in their relationship because the world is coming to an end. Nature is out of balance. Johnny has given up on being the wandering god.
I don't remember Molly.
And Molly is still observing her duty. It is Johnny's god to deliver Sissy kind of her call to adventure, I guess, if you want, which triggers her rise or her becoming the Ascendant to begin the cycle again. And he has abandoned that duty, and he is not looking after her. He's supposed to guard her to make sure that she reaches the Ascendant position. By the way, the reason that she is paired with Fox, or the reason that she is brought into the world and allowed to roam around, is so that she can learn to
Live
see
again.
life,
Oh.
or feel the pain and toil of life. So she's a fairer death. Do you understand? Like, there's a whole reason. Like, I really like this story. It's very clever. But anyway, the people I've chosen for this, for Johnny Coyote, because he's kind of comedic relief, he tends to be quite funny. I've chosen the Fowler. It's Colin Farrell.
I'm a coyote.
Yeah, I'm a coyote. But then again, it could just be some right old villain.
He gets all the sex scenes.
He does, so he'll be writing. You'll be watching Colin Farrell's arse going up and down.
People like
I did toy with Vashti, but Vashti's very intense. Michael Fassbender's very intense.
Although in that photo you've chosen of Farrell, it does look like he's about to start a fight.
It does, but that's kind of his character a little bit. I was thinking Colin Farrell in Bruges. Colin Farrell as the characterization for Johnny Coyote was what I was tinkering with.
Give us one of those gay beers.
Yeah, give us one of those gay beers. Who'd fight? Who'd win a fight? You were a midget. We're not going up there, are you? What? Excuse me, sir? You're not going up there.
No.
You never get up those stairs. What do you mean? What do you mean, pal? I mean, look at you. You're a fucking elephant. Yeah, so that kind of ridiculous, ballsy stuff. Watch the movie, great film. And then I've chosen to be his Molly Raven, Ruth Negga, who I'm very fond of. I realise she's in another Western. She's Tulip O'Hare in Preacher, but I quite like Ruth Negga.
Everyone does. It's a good test of if you're a good person.
Yeah, if you like her, she's swell.
She was even one of the highlights in the bad seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Was she? Who'd she play in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Oh God, you've gone fierce Irish there. She played a woman there. She wasn't Irish though.
Was she from up the Bourne?
No.
She was from outside the parish.
She was an Inhuman.
An Inhuman?
She was a potential Inhuman who wanted to ascend, if you were.
Oh, to Terrigen herself.
Yeah.
Terrigen the shit out of herself.
Yeah, and then she did, and she turned into a weird porcupine thing.
Oh, so it didn't go well for her.
Well, then she could see the future. It was weird.
No, I feel about that. Anyway, Ruth Negga and Colin Farrell. Then we have a very important character who is Sarah. She's kind of the heart and human true line of the story. The rest of the characters kind of revolve around this mythology. They dip in and out of this mythology. Fox is interwoven with the song, and they all belong to this kind of outside human realm. And Sarah's very much the human core to all of that. Again, I'm borrowing from another Western cast, this one, Tandy Newton, because I think they look remarkably similar.
They do.
Although
that's just Westworld. She'll be playing literally the same character.
It is the same character. Like, I don't know if her Madam character in Westworld was inspired by...
Oh, is that what you're saying?
The story of Sarah is very close to the original story of Tandy Newton's character in Westworld,
where she's in that shed worried about people coming to kill her family.
That's her. So I don't know if that was lifted.
I see what you've done.
Like, I'm not sure, but I've chosen her for that one because Sarah's the true one and very important. And finally, I have chosen Mr. Charles Dance as our King of Death.
Does he speak?
He does speak quite a bit.
Does he?
He has monologues.
Not Charles Dance.
Shakespearean monologues. No, the King of Death. He often has monologues with the love of his life, the love in the tower.
Oh, what's her face?
And he often expresses disappointment towards both Ginny and Big Alice.
Oh, he does.
Which really grinds Big Alice's gears.
In a kind of threatening way. He really looks like Tywin Lannister.
He is represented in several ways. Death is often represented by monarch butterflies. I think monarch is a reference to him being the king of death. And to everything there is a season, because monarchs don't live for that long, and they are a constant reminder that death is a cycle and not forever, which he is refusing to let go of.
Yeah, get out of here.
Reason that they don't prosper. There is no colour in his realm. Death resides in a cavern, by the way, at the bottom of the world in this particular narrative. He's really cool.
Could we recast him as a sexy young lady?
If you really want to, get us points with the LGBTQ community.
This story is pretty diverse.
It is. No, it's very diverse. But I'm just saying we get extra points. We get brownie points.
There's mostly ladies in it.
It's mostly ladies. Strong, powerful, flawed women.
Going around being agents.
There's no Mary Sues here. There's no straw feminists here.
What did I see recently that had the worst Mary Sue I'm reading It. Have you ever read...
By Stephen King?
Yeah. Have you ever read anything by Stephen King?
I don't read Stephen King.
Everything. The bloody... Whoever the best character is invariably a writer. And it's just like, he might as well say, and then like, Stuttering Bill, who's the main character, Stuttering Bill was the strongest of us. He was the best. He was, you could tell, strong, not just physically, but emotionally. And if Bev was to fall in love with him, no one would begrudge her. And he might as well just scribble out Stuttering Bill and put me.
That's me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we're alright, keep going.
Yeah, okay, so we'll keep going. This may become a two-parter in some form because we have run rapidly out of time. But anyway, Mick is a wonderful auteur of very in-depth, highly detailed pitches.
Excessively detailed.
I am more like an amputee artist. I use my teeth and a brush to paint very broad strokes on the canvas that form something.
Or an elephant. You know when you see elephants painting?
Yeah, it's kind of cute.
Like
I am an elephant. I've just got a big old paintbrush in my trunk and I'm just giving it a go.
Yeah.
I've got the colours right. It's just everything
doesn't
else.
really understand what he's doing.
A bit sloppy.
But the tourists are clapping.
So this is a movie. I'm going to tell you the movie as I would like to see it.
The tale of the movie.
I don't have it every single beat of the movie. What I have done is I am going to give you a 3-act arc. Mm-hmm. Each arc has a few themes that we're going to throw around. A lot of heavy focus on characterization. We're going to see how we do.
You like a character.
So, in the comic book, all of this story, both the fictional song and the actual events, are narrated by a skeletal bunny and a monarch butterfly, who travel across America at the start of every issue, looking at native fauna and what's the one that we call Flora, that's the one, thank you.
Also a butter.
Of America. Also
a butter. Yeah. Flora. Good for your heart.
Oh, Jesus.
Continue the pitch.
So, Flora, if you'd like to sponsor the podcast. So they travel around. So I want you to picture just a nice, open Arizona sky. Okay?
Yeah.
Very blue. I want you to listen for rustling grass and the flutter of wings. Mm-hmm. And then I want you to hear a small conversation. And the small conversation is, it only hurts for a second.
Uh-oh.
And the next line is, why, bunny? And then the next line is, it should. Okay? That's how we're going to start the story. And then we snap straight into a very, very gritty, very true to history Western town. And there's a man sitting with a hat over his face and he's humming a song.
It's Jim West.
It's Jim West. Boom! Will Smith is in Pretty Deadly.
Yes.
Wild card. Yeah. So it is actually the Fowler. The Fowler has a hat sitting over his face and he's singing none other than the song of Deathface Ginny.
Go on.
So put her name on the wind, she'll ride to your aid, blah 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 blah. So it's the song from the comic book. He's humming that. We cut to wheels trundling into the town. There's a girl reading a really, really, really big book. And it's the flora and fauna of...
How big?
As big as the sky. No, I'm kidding. It's like a big encyclopedia thing. Like a proper Encyclopedia Britannica leather-bound monster of a thing.
Big book.
And all you can see are sketches of different animals that you find in America. And she's reading this... She's devouring this. She has a very unusual garment on her. It's a big cloak thing, but it's made out of black feathers.
Right.
It's actually a vulture cloak, a carrion bird cloak, which is a signal to her later significance. Okay? So, they wheel into town, and Johnny Cody cocks his head. So you can see there's animal traits coming through. He cocks his head to the side and he goes, "That's my song." And he sits up. So he bolts up.
Oh, she's singing the song
and
too.
It's rude. She's humming the song as she goes. And he goes, "That's my song." And he comes up, he sits up. So his attention is now caught. The wagon comes right into the middle of the town. She snaps the book shut. Okay? And then she stands up and she goes, "You ready, Fox?" And Fox is Liam Neeson. He's all Liam Neeson. He goes, "Yeah, go ahead." And it's very resigned and very blah, blah, blah. So she bounces up, leaps, pulls down a huge banner. We see this very big painted banner and she begins to sing. Now, what I didn't tell you is this week I've made a little Spotify playlist for our podcast.
Oh, music.
And it's not majorly significant, but to give you an idea of the tone that we want to have for the song, I've chosen some rather modern songs.
Okay.
And this one is based... So, when we think of the song being sung, this is going to give us our backstory to a lot of the events. Now, it'll be broad stroke backstory that will be filled in later, because that's how we tell stories, to keep audiences interested.
Keep them guessing.
Make money. So, this is Where the Wild Roses Grow by Nick Cave and Kylie Minogue. Yeah. So I wanted it in that tone. So, this is the song.
I could have sung this for you. Like wild rose.
Wow.
Bang on.
It's pretty close.
This is the actual song now. This isn't me.
I know it's hard to tell.
Don't know if the speaker's picking that up well.
We may have to intercut that one with the actual song. We're going to include a link to the playlist below in the comments. You can hear my Pretty Deadly 3-act.
Did you make a playlist?
There's a song for each act. So there's one for each to kind of give you the tone. So all the beats are there. We get a bit of backstory, and then Sissy catches a look at a badge. She sees a flash of a badge in the crowd, and she goes, "Okay, never mind." And she starts to.
It's a lawman.
So it's a lawman, exactly, and they're not exactly a legitimate pair. So we go along, and she begins to gather money in a hat very, very quickly, and she kind of wraps it all up very quickly, but not before a hand grabs her on the forearm. We turn around and we see Fowler, Johnny Coyote, and he goes, "That's a lovely song you're singing." It's very Irish. He's like, "And what's it to you?" We have a little exchange, very heated, and he's like, "Oh no, just wanted to pay my respects." And he thrusts a coin into her hand. She doesn't want anything to do with it. She drops the money and wanders along, and Johnny goes off whistling and tuning. Okay, so that's Act 1. So we're introduced to all the beats. We have our Johnny Coyote, we have our Fox, we have our dynamics all running around. Resigned old man, enthusiastic, loving life, Sissy, and happy-go-lucky, snaky Johnny Coyote. Okay, so moving on from there. There are other parts of this story. Ginny is introduced a little bit later in the story, so we're going to see that she comes through the town hunting Fox after that, and then Big Alice tracks down Johnny Coyote after that as well, and puts a bullet in his leg.
Oh no!
Because what Johnny Coyote has actually done while giving her the money is he slipped what's called the binder to her, and the binder is a set of kind of...
Won't be the first time the Fowler has slipped a woman the binder.
That's an old Dublin sex move, in case you didn't know.
Slipper the binder.
The slippery binder. The old canal binder. And that's what he's kind of done. So he's real sneaky. So he slipped to the binder, and that starts the ascendancy. So he's triggered the cycle.
Okay.
This naturally falls later on. There's going to be a very cool scene. My phone just went off. That's very embarrassing. There's a very cool scene involving a blind fox shooting out on the prairie. There's going to be a whole bunch of that. But we're moving straight to Act 2 because we don't have enough time.
We don't have that much time.
Act 2 is... This is going to go way over.
No, we're okay.
Act 2 is the flood. So the flood is a very significant moment where Sissy and Fox are split.
Uh-oh.
So their strong bond is split. And it's because... It's symbolic in a number of ways, because what happens is Sissy and Fox have always gotten on. She loves him like a dad. He loves her like a daughter. They don't fight. But... recent events, them having to flee Big Alice and Ginny, have caused her to question everything. She doesn't understand what's going on. She realises something is very wrong, and she suddenly realises that her life is more significant. All this is painted in by Sarah in the midriff. But coming up to this particular moment, all this tension is building up. There's a little bit of pathetic fallacy, and a flood is coming to strike.
What's a pathetic fallacy?
Pathetic fallacy is where the nature or the weather in a play, story or narrative mimics the emotional tension of a scene. So for example, the most classic example that everyone learns here in Ireland, King Lear, when he starts and falls into madness, his kingdom becomes a thunder-ridden, lightning...
It's called a pathetic fallacy.
It's pathetic fallacy. That's what it is. Pathetic fallacy is where nature or weather mimics the emotional tone of a thing. Yeah, so there you go.
So like when I need a poo and then the weather gets all sweaty.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Louisiana in deep summer. Hotter than July. So that's how that one works. And then so the flood comes. And for the flood, I have chosen
music.
Mark Lanigan's Bleeding Muddy Water, which I don't know if you've ever heard.
No, I haven't heard this one.
But it's very, very dark. And quite modern.
I like it so far.
So you can imagine the tide sweeping through, pulling everything apart. There's lightning, there's thunder. Some other characters have died.
Oh no!
We'll get that. It's broad strokes. We're not covering that right now. But both are swept in completely different directions.
Liam Neeson! He's gone.
So, what we have then is I am reworking the story a little bit now.
Oh,
so
yes.
When Sissy wakes up, she meets Coyote and Molly, who have tracked her down. Molly, in the interim, has convinced Coyote to take up his duty again. So she meets Ruth Negga and the Fowler. And then, unfortunately, Ginny manages to track down Fox.
Uh-oh.
So we have a lot of tension here. This is a nice midway point. Our characters have fallen apart. New characters have been bound together. And most importantly, we get a big, badass sword-fighting action scene. Okay? Now... earlier in the comic book narrative, what happens is Big Alice actually tracks down Sarah and does all that. So what I actually changed it to is they've already met Sarah, and Sissy decides to go back to Sarah's.
Okay.
And Fox decides to do the same after the flood.
So that's how they're going to find each other.
So they convince each other to find each other. They come back to the house, and then Big Alice arrives to the house. Okay? And that's how it works. And then we have a big fight between Big Alice and Thing. All the characters... Big Alice and Deathface Ginny, sorry. And then what happens is all the characters unite against Big Alice.
Oh,
because
Big Alice.
Big Alice doesn't give a fuck. She'll kill Sarah. She'll kill Sarah's kids. She'll kill everybody.
So they do a team up.
So they have to do a team up. So it's a bit Avengers-y, but it also works well within the scale of this.
It's like the end of Power Rangers.
Yeah, exactly. Well... the Zords come later. That's actually Act 3. My Western Zords are Act 3.
Yes.
And then finally we move on from there. So that's our nice midway point. We get on to Act 3. Act 3, which is the mantle is handed over. Or the King of Death takes a dirt nap.
Oh, no.
It depends on which way you want to call it. So Death changes hands. The two of them. This is where it moves from a traditional Western, and they go into the realm of the dead. There's a whole bunch of mythology around what's called the Shield Maiden in the comics.
I didn't get that.
I've stripped that back because I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah.
I think it's very arcane. I think it's doesn't serve the narrative. This is a love story gone wrong that led to an apocalypse in the West, because that's the way love works. So we're moving on from there. It's just a big confrontation with death. Alice has been put down. In the mid arc. It's okay. Reapers don't die; they're reincarnated.
Okay.
They just they lose their earthly form and they are cast back to the realm of death.
So Ginny can't die.
And the King of Death, she can because she's half human. She doesn't get reincarnation powers. Reapers, in their traditional sense, are quite magical, and they can regenerate their form, but only if the King Death allows it.
Okay.
He grants them the power to do that. They can't do that automatically. Ginny can't do that because she's half human. But she's also the best of the Reapers because she's half human.
Because she's half human. She's real angry.
And she can trod between the two worlds easily. Reapers have to be granted permission to
she doesn't.
cross, and she doesn't. She's allowed to do what she wants, which is why she's so powerful as the Reaper of Vengeance. So it's going to boil down to a really clear scene of Death versus Sissy
gang
and her gang. Yeah, the gang takes on Death. That's an Always Sunny in Philadelphia reference, in case nobody got that. And what happens there is very, very simple. They're going to go up against Death. I think what a nice way to do this would be. I'm going to spoil the end of my movie, but it's not the end of the comic, so don't worry. I've moved away a little bit. Throughout the comic, he has constant dialogues with the woman in the tower, and she constantly tries to convince him to come because he always wants her to stay. He won't release her soul into the afterlife. Death is like a ferryman in the traditional Greek sense. And he won't allow this woman to pass on. Her soul is trapped in the cavern.
He's real clingy.
Yeah, she calls it the blackness at the back of the cavern where lost souls are kind of condemned. And she keeps trying to convince him. He won't let her go. And she keeps saying, if you just come with me, because your cycle is ending, we can be together in the afterlife. And he says, I can't.
You big dickhead.
And he won't let go. I think a nice way to end this was he'll be defeated, and she doesn't love him, but I think she feels sympathy for him.
Okay.
I think she feels for him, but not the way he wants her to.
Yeah.
She doesn't get the sweats like.
Yeah.
She doesn't get the right kind.
That's kind of your area.
What is
working on the whole sympathy thing?
Alright. Okay, just gonna take a wounded sip of water there.
Drink of water. Ease off a bit.
Okay, that hurt.
So sorry.
We're going to move on from there. I think a nice way to do it, she's going to drag him into the afterlife. He's going to be a little bit defeated and he's going to finally concede.
And she's just going to pull him.
Sissy is going to take her place to this particular song.
Oh, this better be good. Is it Coen Brothers?
It's based on it's from the Fargo TV series. This is a guy called Shaky Grace, and he did a cover of this is a very famous song. It's a blues song, but yeah, again, very modern. So you can imagine him conceding, her taking her place. This kind of change. She's very reluctant to take her place because she moves from being a little girl to a teenager in my incarnation. But she's giving up on life, and she loves life, which we've established. It's a very tragic undertone.
It's very sad.
See, but it's very sad in the comic.
No one wins.
Yeah, no one wins. This is the thing. But that's what the comic tries to teach people: is death is inevitable, and not everybody. It's not a happy time, but it's not supposed to be.
Oh.
It's just a cycle. Oh, so it's interesting. Fox has to say goodbye to his daughter. But this all changed. Anyway, so this will be the song. Anyway,
That would be the song that all this ends to, and changes, and that will be the end
Of the film.
of the Pretty Deadly film. I don't do epilogues. I don't do nice, neat wrap-ups. And there is a sequel, so, I mean, as soon as Hollywood pays me for the first one, I'll write the sequel
See
for
how it
them.
goes. Wait a minute, though.
Yes.
I mean, things always change in adaptations.
Yes.
But to go into the realm of death, didn't you have to be dead?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Sarah can't cross. She
Ah.
joins the party, but she can't cross.
Ah.
This is interesting territory for Fox. You're giving an awful lot away for Fox. Only those granted permission by the King of Death
Right.
can cross one way or the other.
Right.
Fox, we don't know how. Well, we do, but I'm not giving away that spoiler because it will ruin the comic for people. Fox was granted permission once upon a time, and Death never revoked it. That's why he can cross easily.
Oh, is it?
Coyote is already a mythical figure who's
Yeah,
not
so that's
beholden
fine.
by death. They
Yeah.
can cross. Molly and King. Ginny can cross whenever she wants.
Yeah.
You're giving away secrets about Sissy, but we know she's the Ascendant, so she can cross. And
But
that's
the
our
thing,
party.
But the thing happened to her.
Which thing?
The thing. The main thing.
The main thing, that she was born in a tide of blood.
No! The other main thing.
Flood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is terrible podcast material.
Yeah, anyway, each one of those people has a stake in the realm of the dead, which is why
on
they...
a stone.
On a stone. Stake on a stone, because grills weren't a thing in the Old West. So that's my pitch. If you'd like to give it our patented 1 to Saban's Power Rangers rating...
I think better than Saban's Power Rangers.
Yes! That's all I need to hear. So that's the end of that one.
Yeah.
Nick, we're miles over time there, gang.
Yeah, look, we'll talk about other things next week.
Yeah, we'll talk about other things next week. Have you read Pretty Deadly? Do you like Pretty Deadly? Do you like independent comics in general? Do you like westerns?
Are you asking me those things?
No. This is our wrap up.
the
We're on the wrap up.
Oh, we're doing the wrap
Let us know down below in the podcast if you have any other death themed bluegrass or country music. Please send it on to me because I'm quite a fan of that genre. My 3-part playlist is down below. Any recommendations for the folks at home?
Look, read Pretty Deadly. It's
pretty.
To use the Dublin vernacular, it's pretty deadly.
It's pretty deadly.
If you're a fan of a Sandman, if you're a fan of a preacher, you're gonna like it. It's a good comic book.
Yeah.
It's very enjoyable. It's currently in print and easy to get from your local
very
comic
easy
book
to
shop.
get. In fact, it's an Image volume 1, which means it's only a tenner in most places because Image has a special deal on their first volumes. They're $9.99 in most places.
Get in.
So it's even cheap here in a quite expensive Dublin.
Get in. And then go and watch Wild Wild West with Will Smith.
I don't endorse that, but given that you've never criticised mine, I won't criticise yours. That's the end of the podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
Bye,
Leave us a
everybody.
comment, let us know what you think.
Bye. Thanks for listening.